Hi everybody, my name is Wolfgang and we are Byte Guitars. We build custom bass guitars in Vienna, Austria, and today I'm gonna tell you a bit about our pickups. Bastian, lasst weiterlaufen. And I want to tell you why I am obsessed with high pickup output. I am convinced that a powerful pickup is the key element in an electric bass. Dann muss ich nach jedem Satz nachschauen. Byte Guitars is one of those custom bass builders who install their own proprietary pickups. We call them Byte 1000 millivolts. Why so? Our pickups actually reach an output of 1000 millivolts, which is pretty huge. It may well be the highest pickup output of any comparable passive pickup. At least I am not aware of any other pickup with such a high level of output in a normal build dimension. This means single coils, split coils and humbuckers. It took us 4 years to develop these pickups and we spared no efforts. We worked together with a big international pickup manufacturer and we had the support of Germany's foremost scientific experts in the field of guitar pickups. You'll find their names, links and publications down in the description. At the end of the day, we experimented with hundreds of pickup prototypes until we reached our aim. What was this aim? We wanted to create a sound. We wanted to create a really powerful bass sound that bites through the band mix. So there are two things to it. There's power and there's the bite bit. The first thing is power. A bass needs to have a really strong and powerful presence. At least this is what I learned as a bass player. A lousy one, but still a 100% passionate one. So let me tell you how it all went down. I started out buying cheap basses for $200-300, pretty much like everyone else does. So first you buy one bass, and then you get curious about another model, another brand. So at the end of the day, I ended up with 6 inexpensive basses, and I liked them a lot. Some more, others less. But at $200 a pop, you're not really picky. Then I set my eyes on a $2,000 bass. OMG. I already like my $200 basses. How much more am I gonna love that bass that will cost me 10 times as much? So here I am unboxing that expensive bass. My expectations high up there. And I plug it in and there it was. Complete disappointment. What a weak bass. It had no power. I did not feel that bass. It did not reach my guts. I was looking for a reason, so I took this bass apart, did my continuity checks, looking for broken wires, broken solder joints, but I found nothing. That was really how this bass sounded. Now you explain to me, how can it be that I pay 10 times as much for this bass and it just sounds like some kid's toy? The workmanship, the fret ends, the finish, the hardware. I mean, there was nothing special about it, nothing out of this world, nothing that, in my eyes, would justify the tenfold price. And that was the moment that set me going. I was determined to find out why this $2,000 bass sounded so weak, and soon I did find out, and it actually had to do with the pickups. And all of this ultimately led me towards building my own basses. And my ambition has always been, when somebody buys a bass from us, plugs it in for the first time, I want him to go, wow, this is what drives us. And this is why I'm obsessed with high output. And let me just mention, we've been in the market now for 1.5-2 years, and we offer a return policy. If you're not happy with your Byte bass, send it back to us. A bass that we built especially for you, you don't like it, you send it back to us. I think we're the only ones who are actually so foolish as to offer such a return policy on a custom bass. But we did not receive a single return because a customer didn't like our sound. Not a single return. We've had one return, and that was because the customer didn't like our D neck. A neck profile is very much a question of personal preferences. Some prefer D, some prefer C. We have now, by the way, switched our standard profile from D to C, which many people find easier to play. D neck profiles are still available on some of our necks. And now here's the second thing about our sound. The first thing was the power, in other words, output. But output alone is of no use. A bass needs also to cut through the mix. This means a bass sound needs attack and a clearly defined pitch. What's all that? Attack is the time span between the plucking of the string and the peak of your output, and you want this time span to be very short and the curve to be very sharp. Otherwise your timing will be a mess. You will be lost in time, you're not in the pocket, you're not grooving, however you call it. Your band will be lost and the audience will start throwing tomatoes at you. And the same applies also to your pitch. You want it well defined and articulate. Nobody enjoys some undefined, noisy thundering. And this is where designing bass pickups is getting tricky. It is relatively easy to increase the output. You simply keep adding turns to the coil wire. The more turns, the more resistance, the more inductance, and the more output. But nobody wants that kind of output. It's gonna be ugly and muddy, no pitch, no attack, just deafening noise. When you design a bass pickup, there is a dozen of parameters that you can tweak. It's all about materials and their shapes. Our aim simply was to achieve maximum output, but still sharp attack and a clearly defined pitch. And this is what we call our sound bites through the band mix, and this is where we have our brand name from. Another important aspect is that you still need to have attack and a clearly audible pitch. Also, when your tone is rolled off, when you close the tone pot, so that all the high frequencies are filtered out and you're just left with the bassy, low frequencies, you still want to cut through the band mix. And even then, our 1000 millivolt bass pickups deliver a well-defined bass tone. Next question, please. 1000 millivolts equal 1 volt, right? Yes, that's right. So why don't you just call it the 1 volt pickup? Technically speaking, you are absolutely right, but the convention still is to indicate pickup output in millivolts, not in volts. This is because usually the measuring range is much lower. So just to give you the perspective, at our measuring devices, we measure average passive bass pickups at around 300 millivolts, high output pickups at around 700. Next one. Output on most pickups I've seen are shown as kilo ohms. Byte specifies theirs in millivolts. How does that translate to kilo ohms? Well, ohms or kilo ohms express the resistance of a coil. And for measuring the resistance, in this case we're talking about the DCR, the direct current resistance, you only need the coil. Whereas when you want to measure output, you need the whole test setup. You need the strings, and the string has to be, oh boy. Output is expressed in wattage. One could roughly say that the higher the DCR, the higher also the output. But it's not that simple. There are many more variables to take into account. So there is no clear mathematical correlation. How do you measure pickup output anyway? We have special test instruments that we built just for the purpose of measuring. We measure mechanical strokes, manual strokes, and we also measure all electronically. So for the nerds among you, we measure true RMS on the open E string at 250 milliseconds into the stroke. Why not go even higher than 1000 millivolts? You can only push the envelope so far. Again, the art in high output is to still keep the sound well defined. And I am quite confident that we have reached the ceiling in traditional passive pickup designs. Just turn up the amp and that's that. Duh! No, that's not that. Turning up the amp is not the same thing. Everything that you do downstream from the pickup, the pedals, the amp, whatever, it just changes your curve, it changes your sound. There's just nothing like a natural signal. For this reason, all our basses are passive, no doctoring, no meddling with nature, no preamps, no doctoring, no. no preamps, no doctoring of any kind, no meddling with nature. But if you want active, here's a bit of active for you. If your amp has an active mode, you better use this active mode for your byte bass, because our signal is so strong that it is stronger than that of many active basses. And finally, here comes my favorite question. Isn't the wood just as important as the pickup? No way, no it isn't. Don't get me going on the wood. There is just so much nonsense out there about the wood. We at Byte Guitars go with science. We are not reading mysteries into wood species. We're not selling you snake oil. Yes, there are some wood properties which do matter, such as the residual moisture and, most importantly, the stiffness of the neck. Basically, when we talk about electric basses, we talk about electric sound generation and an electric signal path, and there is no wood in there. You're welcome to find out more about our understanding of the wood subject on byte.guitars. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Your comments or questions are welcome via email, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Visit us on byte.guitars. Cheers! Sebastian!